Okay.
Oh, okay, I see it.
Hey, well, we're here today to talk about friendship. And for me, this is a very obviously, I guess, obviously personal topic because it's something that has not always come easy for me. Um, I'm here today with my new friend, Lindsay, and I'm gonna let you introduce yourself, Lindsay, and talk a little bit about your experience with friendship.
So, hello. I'm Lindsay, obviously, and very honored to be here to be able to talk about friendship with you today. So, I'm excited to get started.
Awesome. So I found it really kind of funny how we met because I felt a little bit like it was like the opposite of parents creating a play date for for their toddlers or something. It was our adult daughters kind of set us up. They were like, "We're friends and we would like to
Yeah.
hang out more, and it would be really cool if our moms were friends." So what was that experience like for you?
So, you know, I feel like these are my kids, so they have my same kind of humor, my same personality. And so I know that whenever one of them gets along with someone, that they probably have some of the same interests, the same characteristics and things. So that was kind of the first thing that Haley kind of said to me was like, like I love um Pishma so much that I just know that you're gonna love her mom. And I'm like, okay, like I trust that. I trust that
Right?
because, we're different. And so like if she jives with someone, I know that I'm probably going to too. So um I was excited. But then I did say to her because I was like, what are you trying to say? Like that you feel like it's just like trying to set me up on
You
a
need a
play
friend,
date. Yeah, and I'm kind of
right?
like, what are you getting at? She's like, I don't mean anything bad by it. She's like, I just think you need more friends. But she wasn't wrong because I do.
That's great. So when she asked you to come along to the Halloween party, well, first I'll just share my like what it was like for me when Kishima told me, she was like, I invited my friend from work. We get along really well. I just love her. She's so full of personality. I think you're gonna love her too. And I told her to bring her mom along because I think you guys would really hit it off. And I know that you've been like expressing that you need more adult friendships. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I look forward to meeting her. But I was all also just a little like, I hope she's right, that I really will hit it off with her. I hope she likes me too. So how did Haley present it to you
You know what?
when
She
she
was,
invited you to the party?
yeah. So she's just like, she did it very nonchalantly. Okay. Because I think she was trying not to make it seem like that was her intention to kind of like
She didn't come
be
straight at
friends.
it like
Yeah.
Kishima did with me.
Yeah. She was like, oh, okay, so Peach was having this Halloween party. She goes, you know what? You should come with us. And that's where it kind of started because she's like, I get along with Pishma. I think that you'll get along with her mom really well. And I was like, okay, all right. Like, what are you trying to say? But I was, and honestly, what's so crazy about it is the the day of the Halloween party, we actually had lost we had to put down one of our ferrets and I wasn't gonna go. I was actually going
Oh.
to just be like, I'm sorry, like, I'm not gonna go. But I was like, nope, no, I need this. I need to get out a little bit because, we were all kind of really bummed out. And
Yeah.
I'm glad that I did. I'm very
Yeah,
glad that I
I'm
did.
so glad that you did too. I was excited to know that there would be like another adult coming because
Yeah,
otherwise, I mean, yes, all these kids are adults, but us, they're still kids, like
yeah,
they're like in their 20s, so it's a whole different demographic. So so it's like, oh, okay, cool, there'll be somebody for me to talk to too. Like, I mean, I talk to and get
right.
along with the younger kids, but it's not the same thing. Like it's not quite, the same level. Um, like we're not having the same life experiences at this point, you know what I mean?
Right. And oftentimes, no, I get it because oftentimes I'll make a joke and they look at me like they have no idea what I'm talking about. And I'm like, oh, okay. It's kind of one of those things where I've got to know my audience, and that wasn't it. So,
Yeah, yeah, I got you. Um, so once you met, or once we met, I mean, ho- I know like Pishima had kind of asked me to make an effort. And so I tried to make sure that I talked with all of you, with you, Haley, and Jack, and like got to know you a little bit as much as I could in that setting. And then when I learned that you were really into plants, I was like, oh, this is cool because I struggle with taking care of my plants. And while it's not something that I'm like nerding out about, and it's something where maybe you could help me
mhm.
with it. So I'm like, this is something we can converse about. So let me ask you about my plants. And that really started things rolling because then I, like, we talked about my plants while you were here. And then I made the effort after the fact to like actually follow up and take your advice and do the things with the plants and communicate with you about it in order to keep the conversation going because I really wanted to see if we could hit it off and be friends. What was your experience of that piece of it like?
So I'm very, I think I've told you this before. I isolate myself and I spend the majority of my time, with my family. So going to the party, and I was slightly nervous just because I'm not always great in a lot of social settings. I feel like I've lost a lot of my ability throughout the years to be able to interact in social settings. So I'm kind of awkward. So when we got there, first of all, I didn't know that you were the parent because I was like, everybody is so young. Like I felt like
Me
everybody
neither.
looked
I
the
didn't know
same
you.
age. Like I'm like, okay. And so when they did finally introduce us, my first thought was immediately like, okay, she's like the coolest person I think I've ever met because I loved your outfit and how creative it was. And then I was like, okay, I hope she doesn't think I'm weird as I'm dressed as a black cat, you know? So I was like, so we started
You were
talking, and
so cute.
I did notice your plants though, as soon as we walked in. Um, so I was like, oh, okay, so she has a few plants, and I'm like, but I always try to resist trying to offer up any kind of um criticism, or how do I want to say
Solicited
that?
advice.
Yes, without you asking, because I can sometimes be overwhelming with that. Um, so I am glad that you came up and you started talking about plants because it kind of just dropped the wall immediately because it's something that I can talk about very easily because I love plants. So that was awesome. So the fact that you came to me then about it, I kind of felt important because you're like, oh, you want to know about plants, you need help, I've got you. So I was super excited that I was able to help you with something and that you wanted to, get together later and, talk about some of that. So, yeah, I was super excited.
Cool. Yeah, I thought you were so cute in your little cat outfit and with your little black nose. It was so cute. And I also was like trying to figure out who is the mom because Pichima told me this mom is coming, but like which one of these young people is the mom? And I couldn't believe that you were like anywhere close to my age. You looked so young.
It was definitely the makeup.
Yep. The little cute black nose really helped.
Yep. Yep. Covered it all up.
Funny. Um, and your daughter and her boyfriend had like, in my opinion, the best costumes of the whole party. That was really cool too.
Yeah, well, the effort that went into them trying to find something and how long we spent at Spirit of Halloween going through numerous outfits that like worked together before they picked one. I was so tired by the end of that shopping trip. I was like, I don't even care what you guys go as anymore. Just pick something.
Well, the effort was all worth the trouble. It was worth it because they really pulled it off well. And I really appreciate how spot on Pishima and Haley were with thinking that we would hit it off too,
Yep.
because we really have. And you mentioned that you were starting to feel kind of like you felt like over the years you became more and more
Mhm.
um like socially awkward
Yeah.
and uncomfortable in social settings. What do you think caused that, and what do you think has helped you work through it?
I think honestly, I think what caused it, I mean, as much alone time as we spent, especially during the pandemic too, that also didn't help. But I think about the time that social media, really started to blow up and everything, it was something new and you find yourself like so excited and entranced with everything going on in it. So you spend a lot of time on it. So you can just be like, oh, I have lots of friends, and you have all these people that you're mutuals with on social media platforms. But then you lose sight of the fact that you don't really have those connections in your day-to-day life, like on a one-to-one basis. And it really you need that. We're social
Mhm.
creatures. And so I think that, and then just kind of, we're busy. Sometimes we feel like we don't make enough time for people, or you're just like, I'll just do it later. And then you don't put the effort in to, set that time aside for other people to build those relationships. And I think what helped me work through it, it kind of just dawned on me though. And this was even before, the girls tried to, set us up to be friends. And it just dawned on me one day when I was just like, I need to start focusing on self care for myself. And part of that is, your mental well being. And I was like, okay, what can I do that will help my mental well being? And I'm like, I really am missing the social aspect of that. And in order for me to be a little bit more balanced, I need that. So I
Mhm.
had already had it in my mind that this is what I need. And I craved it too. It just finally was the time where I was like, I need this. I know I need this. So I was already open to it. It was a matter of putting myself out there in situations that I might find a little bit uncomfortable because it's out of my comfort zone in order for me to find what I was looking for. So normally I don't like groups of people, especially people I don't really know. And
That's hard.
I knew no one going into that party except for Haley and Jack. So it was definitely like a little bit awkward for me. But then when I got in there and the vibe was just right though, like I felt comfortable though immediately. I didn't feel awkward. I didn't feel out of place and was so glad that I went. And I think it's just, putting yourself out there. You have to do that.
Now, if you hadn't felt that the vibe was right for you,
Mhm.
how would that have changed the outcome?
I probably, yeah, I probably would have been very, very like not willing to talk, not wanting to talk. I probably wouldn't have wanted to stay as long as we did. Um, and if I just didn't, I probably still would have tried to give it a little bit of effort, even if the vibe wasn't that great at the party. I probably still would have tried to give it effort just to kind of see if we would click in a different setting. Only because,
Mm,
sometimes first meetings may not always be the greatest. Like when I was in college, I was like one of the older people because I was an adult student. And there were some of the younger girls who I like the first year of school, I was just like, no, there's no way. I was struggling to deal with it. I thought they were annoying. And then when the second year rolled around and I finally took the time to get to know them in a different light, I ended up finding out that I absolutely adored them and I am still friends with them. Um Unfortunately they moved away, so they live in a different state and we only keep in contact through social media now. And trying to find time to get together is very difficult whenever everybody has families now. But
mm,
it's one of those things where you may not always click right away, but if you put the effort in, you might at a different time in a different setting.
got you. And I think that brings up a good point that it does take effort. I think
Mhm.
especially as adults, when it is harder and you have to like go out of your way because I think it's so much easier for young people because they're in I think it was, oh my gosh, I meant to look up this lady's name. There is somebody else that I've seen on a podcast. She was on Diary of a CEO,
Mhm.
and she she's a scientist that studies human behavior and like body language and things like that.
Mhm.
And she was making the point that when no, okay, I'm going to cut this whole section because I have to remember who it was that said this. Anyway, I understand that it's easier when people are like kids, right? You're in school with other people your same age who are having a lot of similar experiences. You're at the same point in your life. You have most of your activities are with other kids your own age or close to your age, even outside of school, if you're involved in different sports or dance or, different activities. You're automatically in settings with other people your age that may have a lot of things in common. And so it's easier to have friends. When you become an adult, like you said, you're busy. You might have a family. You're very busy taking care of your focus is on your kids. I find that a lot of moms in particular, and this is probably mostly because I'm a mom, and so I'm seeing from that perspective as well, and mostly communicating with other moms, probably more than dads, that we put all our energy into making sure the kids have activities and things they're involved in and their health needs and their social needs and all of that. And often there's like no focus on, do I need an extracurricular activity to enrich my life? Do I need friends and social activities to enrich my life? And I think that for a lot of us, we kind of table that while the kids are growing up. And it's not until either close to or after they're out of the house that we start to realize, wait, I need some of this social interaction for myself. Um, I had a like when I talk about kids and having things in common, it was interesting. I had a unique experience because growing up, I I was part of a subculture in a sense that like my family had like a different what's the word? Like kind of different way of life than everybody in this area. Plus, as you might be aware also, like where we live, there's a lot of this mentality, and I think maybe even more so in Juniata County than Mifflin County, where you live, of like if your grandparents didn't grow up in this area, you're from out of town,
Yeah.
right? And like people don't trust outsiders because it's a very small, like
Mhm.
rural community. And so because we were um like we moved here when I was a baby, and then we were also like different than other people. There was a lot of fear around us in the sense that like I could be friends with people in school, but then they weren't allowed to come over to my house.
Mhm.
And so my friendships were very limited. And at the same time, some of my social needs were met just by the fact that I did go to school every day,
Mhm.
right? So that's just like kind of a quick synopsis of that experience. But then as an adult, I did become more involved in our temple community and that subculture. And there were times when I had close friends, but part of that subculture, part of the challenge with that is that a lot of people in our community tend to travel a lot.
Mhm.
So they'll go visit somewhere and stay there even for a couple of years, have some experiences, and then move on. And people travel across countries, which is cool because I've gotten to meet a lot of people and get to know people from different backgrounds and experiences. And I feel like that's really enriched my life. But then I'd have friends that I'd get really close with. They'd be here for like 2 years and then they'd move back to their home country. And so I kind of developed a bit of like separation anxiety
Mhm.
around friendships. Like, okay, we might be close, but then you're gonna like abandon me at some point, Like
Yeah.
I get anxious that my friends are just gonna like leave me. Um, and so that's made it really additionally difficult for me as an adult to make long-lasting friendships, and especially like local people that
Mhm.
live in our little local rural community. I've often found that I didn't have enough in common with them
Yeah.
to maintain friendships outside of any activities that we might be involved in together, like maybe co-dance moms or something like that. Like we'd chat while we were there, but then never make plans to do anything together, that kind of thing. So for me, meeting you has been like such a blessing because we right away, I feel like both of us were so ready for a friendship that's like an in-person, we live near each other, we can see each other regularly kind of friendship. Because I've maintained those long distance relationships, like that's great. And I still feel really close to some of those people, but it's not the same when like we have to travel across the ocean to see one another.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, like you and I both like needed it and wanted it so badly, I think, because I was so scared to come on too strong. And yet it felt like you were feeling the same way. Like I got the vibe that you were excited as I was to make friends, and I felt like a little kid, like, oh my
That's
God, I have a friend.
exactly what it felt like. Yes, that is exactly what it felt like.
Like the first time we went out for coffee, we just talked for hours and hours. And
Yes,
we talked about all the like fundamental things, our beliefs, our feelings about things.
yeah, it was
What was,
easy.
yeah,
It was
was it?
easy. Yes, it was easy to talk. And so for me personally, if it's a lot of effort, then it doesn't mean like I wouldn't be friends with that person. But if it's a lot of effort, then it's a little bit harder for me to maintain a friendship like that. And I've had I've transitioned through different parts of my life since I've been aging, and I've met many different people too. And I still have friends from those times in my life, but I don't think I've ever come across a friend that was as easy to just be around like I am with you. And maybe it is because I'm so ready to put in the effort for the friendship, but I also think that it's just your vibe. Like, I don't know. Like, you are like the other half of me. I don't know how to explain it. And I also am,
Soulmates.
and I am also so freaking blessed to have met you. Although I will tell you, I don't know if I told you this. I can't remember if I told you this before or not. But after that first coffee date, Haley was blowing up my phone. She wanted to know how it went. I mean, she wanted all the details. And then she's like, Pishma just messaged me that her mom isn't answering her. So like what's going on? Like, we're talking. Like, let us be friends.
They wanted to micromanage our first
Yes.
date,
Like, calm
first friend
down,
date.
girls.
Oh my gosh, that makes me feel even more like it was like we were their toddlers, like they wanted to supervise.
That is so much what it felt like. Because when I finally opened up her message, she's like, "Why are you not answering me?" And there's like 10, 15 messages. And I'm like, because she knew what time we were going. I was like, Haley, we were talking, like we were hanging out, we were getting to know each other this whole entire time. And she was, well, because Pishma apparently tried to get a hold of her and she didn't answer her either. That's because we were talking. We were doing what you expected us to do. Like, what?
Right, right. I think maybe it was surprising for them that we hung out as long as we did. But that was
Yeah,
also
yeah,
surprising for me because like the fact that when like I had some errands I needed to run and I was like, "Do you want to just come along?" And you were like, "Yeah, sure, I'm down." And I was like, "Oh wow, she actually really wants to keep hanging out with me."
yeah. Because normally I would have found a way out of that if I didn't want to go. But it was just so easy. And then after that, I was just so excited because of the way that I felt afterwards.
Mm.
And was so excited to continue the friendship and, just have that.
So let's talk about that a minute. You
Mhm,
said about how you felt afterwards. And I
mhm,
know we were talking about this the other day when we got together again for coffee and about how some people, when you're done talking to them, you feel drained.
mhm,
And some people, when you're done talking to them, you feel energized. And now
mhm.
that's not necessarily like any indictment on the people if you
Right.
feel drained afterwards. It's just maybe they're not the right match for you. Like maybe they're
Mhm.
not your people in that kind of way, right?
Yeah.
That's okay sometimes. Like there's people in my life that I really care about and they do drain me, but I care enough about them that I want to take the time to spend with them from time to time, right? But I do have to be careful that I don't spend too much time with people that drain me because then I don't have as much energy
Mhm.
and enthusiasm for other parts of my life or other people in my life that I
Right.
need. So, can you also talk a little bit about how you've become more self-aware around that as you get older and realize like that some people are your people and other people are maybe friends, but there's less like connection and vibe.
Right. Um, it's definitely gotten more noticeable as I age, um, where I can pick up on people where I just feel so drained after interactions with them. And I try to figure out for a while, like, what is it that makes me feel that way? And I think it just depends sometimes on everybody has, issues going on in their life. And I think we touched on this the other day too. Um, if you don't have a good balance in your interactions with your friends, and one person is giving too much or one person is taking too much from that relationship, it often leaves you feeling drained. And so I find like if I am out with a friend and it's just constantly me trauma dumping on them nonstop and not giving them a chance to talk about things that are weighing heavy on their lives, that's not a good balance. And so that definitely could leave them feeling drained. And so I was kind of like, that must be what's going on sometimes with me. There's not that balance there. And I'm a people pleaser, so I often struggle to put up boundaries. Now I'm getting better with it only because of you.
Really?
But yeah, definitely because normally I would just let it go. But I've definitely been working on the whole boundary thing. So with you though, I feel like we have a very good balance of things. I don't leave our coffee dates feeling drained. And I'm also very, very much aware to not try to not let not let you talk about things that you feel like you need to talk about. Whereas I think maybe when I was younger, it was just me, 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 me. You know,
Mm,
growing up, I've kind of learned it's not always about me. And if I care about somebody, you want them to be able to feel like they can talk to you.
mhm.
So I think all of those things kind of make me a little bit more self aware now whenever, we're talking. So I think that's kind of how I got to where I am now. It's effort, and it's being aware of your interactions with people and make sure you're not taking too much. It needs to be a nice balance of give and take.
So my experience with that has been that often in my life, it's like there's been certain people that
Mhm.
if I'm struggling, I know I can call them and they'll be able to like handle it, hear me out, maybe help, whatever, right?
Mhm.
And I would reach out to those people. And then there would be other people who would reach out to me when they needed something.
Mhm.
But it was rarely ever the same person that it would go back and forth. Like there was a balance. It was like I had my people that I went to, other people had me that they went to. Um, but one thing I will say, even about those who have come to me over the years from time to time to trauma dump or whatever, or get
Yeah.
support, let's say, um, I I have also noticed that part of the challenge for me with maintaining friendships with them is that they often express guilt about doing that. Like they have an awareness
Mhm.
and then they feel guilty about it. And so then they'll spend sometimes years not reaching out at all because they
Yeah.
don't want to be a burden.
Mhm.
And I'm like, but that's what friendship is like I want to be there for you. And at the same time, I do think that to maintain a and have a good balanced relationship, it would be nice if, if there was more of a balance that sometimes they were more able to be there for me. And likewise with me with people that I might call in a pinch, if I'm more able to be there for them, or if they saw me as somebody that they would
Mhm.
want to come to with something. Um, I do think that my training as a coach has helped with that too, though,
Yeah.
and understanding better how to shut up and listen. Like I always thought I was good at it, but and I'm also learning that still like with people, I'm great with strangers or with coachees in regards to like not trying to, create all the solutions myself or even, trying not to create much solutions myself, but really help them figure it out for themselves.
Mhm.
But I'm realizing that like with my kids, it's like virtually impossible. Like I even had a conversation with Pishima this morning and she kept saying to me, I don't want solutions. Like I'm just venting here. And I kept trying to give solutions. I tried to do it like a little subtle, a little, oh, it's just a light suggestion, but have to admit it was still a friggin' solution. And I could see how it was frustrating her when she had asked me point blank not to do that. So I think that's another thing too that I've experienced. People think that they're being there for you,
Mhm.
but you come to them, with just wanting to vent about something or wanting to just feel seen and heard. Like there was part of me who just wanted, who was really feeling like, oh my God, that must be so tough for you. Like just to share that I'm feeling the feelings that she's expressing, right? And
Yeah.
that's what we often want from somebody else, especially those that are close to us. I think for similar reasons, like because they care so much, they want to fix it for us.
Yes.
And then it gets to the point for me sometimes that those people that are like, well, have you tried this? This works for me. Maybe you should try this. Maybe take this. Maybe listen to this. Maybe do this, And they've got like all the possible fixes for you, and that's not what you needed.
Mhm.
You just wanted to feel seen and heard. I tend to stop going to those people or be careful what I talk to those people about because I don't want them to fix it. And that's something that I think is often a struggle also in male-female relationships because men especially
Yeah.
feel like some level of responsibility to fix everything. But I also think that comes up in parent relationships and even just like families, maybe more so than external people. Again, probably because we care so much
Mhm.
and we just want it to be better.
Yeah.
So, but it's like, how to like just keep reminding yourself that like the best way to make things better is often just to listen
Yes.
and let somebody feel seen and heard. And it's like, I really got to work on that more with my kids, especially.
Me too. I am the same. It's natural. I think it's especially too as a parent, when kids are little, we just they do come to us because they want us to fix things. They want us to find
Yeah,
the solutions. It's a hard
right.
habit to break as they grow older and they become adults. And when I care about someone, it is I want to try to fix it. I want to try to help. So I do the same thing that you do. I try to offer solutions. But as everything that you just said, it makes perfect sense. With me having lupus, oftentimes, you know, when I'm telling, let's say my mother, my family, and I'm talking about it, and she's offering solutions, and I know she only does it with the best intentions, but sometimes she'll just be like, oh, well, if you just get up and move around, it'll be easier. Or if you watch what you eat, or if you lose like 5 pounds, you'll feel better. And I know that it's meant well, but what they don't understand is it's not like that. I just want you to know that this is what I'm going through. I just want you to hear me. I don't want pity. I just need to talk about it because not many people understand it. And so it's the same thing. You know, I think you touched on that very well. Most people just want to be heard and don't always want the solutions. I read somewhere many years ago, and I can't remember where I read it at now, but it was someone, and they were talking about relationships, and they just said, when somebody comes to me and they're talking about something difficult that they may be going through, she would ask them right away, do you just want to be heard, or do you want solutions? So that it was clear from the get-go what they were asking for, so that she
Mhm.
didn't overstep that boundary. I know that is in the back of my mind, but it's still a bad habit to try to break.
Yeah, exactly. Like I know that so well, and still it's a bad habit that's hard to break. But yeah, and I think also it has to do with that, like communicating what you want. Like some people are going to ask you that. Some people are not as aware to ask you that. Some people, even myself sometimes, you could tell me point blank what you want, and apparently I still struggle, right? Like I walked away from that conversation. I was like, she told me over and over what she wanted, and I freaking did the opposite. What is like, I really need to work on that. Like, obviously, this is something I'm still not great at, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna work on that. Um, but yeah, like, oh shoot, I lost my train of thought. I was thinking about how important it is to also tell people why you're telling them something. So for instance, like with my mom, right? My mom is very like hyper focused on her health and a lot of like natural medicines and remedies and so if she hears that I'm sick, she immediately wants to like offer me this herb and this supplement and this and this and this and this and this and occasionally I will want her to suggest something, but like, can you just give me one thing and not three to five things, right? And so I have to be really clear with her about that. Can you just choose the one thing that you think is most likely going to be the best? And because I'm not interested in taking a whole like handful of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the other thing is that I realized recently that sometimes I'm telling my mom I'm sick because I'm asking her to give me space. Like I don't necessarily want to talk today, or I don't have the energy to get together or to, or to think about somebody else's problem that you might want to talk through or whatever, right? Um, and so I'm like, by the way, I'm not feeling well today. But if I don't come out and say, I'm letting you know that I'm not feeling well because I need some space, or just I'm not feeling well today. Please forgive me if I'm not available. I just need some time to rest, right? Um, then how does she know what, right? And she jumps to the conclusion that she should help me and start suggesting a lot of vitamins and things. So like the conversation will often go where I'll say I'm not feeling well and she'll be like, "Oh no, what's going on?" And then I'll text her back all, my symptoms and then I'll be getting texts throughout the day as she continues
Oh,
to think about it and come up with more and more and more solutions for me. And then my phone is bling bling blinging when I'm trying to take a nap because I don't feel well, right?
yeah.
So like she's really, God love her, trying to be helpful and she obviously cares so much about me, but I failed to say,
Yeah.
I don't feel well today. I need, to not communicate because I need to rest today. And that's so like, and she's doing the opposite of what I need because I didn't tell her.
Hmm.
And so that's another thing that I think in relationships, it's really important, friendships, family relationships, all of it, to communicate clearly and to recognize when somebody's doing something that you don't appreciate because you didn't communicate clearly
Yeah.
versus you did communicate clearly and they're still not listening to you.
Hmm.
Because sometimes, especially when you've communicated clearly something over and over and over and over again, and the person just is refusing to listen and understand or respond the way you're asking them to, sometimes you need to walk away and love somebody from a distance.
Yeah. Or sit down and have a super serious conversation. And then if it's still not, fixing itself, then it's time to, like you said,
Right.
love at a distance. Um, no, I totally get everything that you said because that is like spot on. Um, and I think it goes along, I've experienced some of that. I think it goes along with me not being able to set healthy boundaries. And then also, I think the fear of just like disappointing someone. So obviously, I have days where I don't feel well. And I would sometimes just push through just for the sake of like, I didn't want somebody getting upset with me. But there were times where I literally couldn't. And so then having to say to them, like, I don't really feel good today, and then not really giving context. And I think sometimes that left people feeling like, oh, does she not just, is she trying to avoid me? Those
Mhm.
kinds of feelings because I didn't elaborate on it. And I can't just expect somebody to know and understand what I'm going through sometimes. So I think it's very important to make sure that you are communicating effectively so that there isn't any kind of miscommunication.
Yeah. On the flip side of that, though, I think it's also important to know how to summarize clearly,
Yeah.
but in a summary, because I've made the mistake often because have been coming in the past from a people pleasing
Mhm.
mindset or wanting to make sure that I'm not misunderstood. And therefore, like telling my life story as an explanation. You know what I mean? Like my aunt once
Yeah.
said to me that it seems to her that I have a lot of boundaries. And I was like, that's so interesting because I feel like I don't have enough. So I was like, so what do you think makes you say that? Like, what's been your experience of me setting boundaries, why you might feel that way? And she said that because, like, let's say, for instance, she comes for a weekend visit and she says, hey, I'd love to see you when I come up.
Mhm.
And I am, rather than just being like, okay, great, like, I have a couple of hours on Sunday that I can come over to my mom's and visit you while you're in the area. Instead, I'm like, oh man, I wish I could see you on Saturday and Sunday, but I have this, and this that I have to do on Sunday, and that's really important because blah 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 blah. And then Sunday morning I have this other thing going on, but I think I can, but I really want to see you, and therefore I'm gonna make time Sunday afternoon. I think I can squeeze it in then. And then she's like, you give me so much explanation that I start feeling like I'm responsible, like you're giving me excuses and I'm responsible for why you can't, like, now I have to like be so understanding and, like it's um and it just feels like you're putting a lot of like unnecessary information on me and making it like a big deal that you have to fit me in, as opposed to just saying, this is my availability,
Right.
right? And so I really reflected on that and realized that she was right. I was doing that. And it was like coming from my own insecurity. And I really could just say,
Mhm.
I have some availability on Sunday. You know, I'll make sure to come over and spend some time with you. It doesn't like it's necessary to communicate the important things, but it's not necessary to communicate everything, I guess is the point.
Okay, so it's not just me then that does things like that because I can also go one way or the other. It just depends. Like I can either not give enough information or I can give entirely too much. There is no regulation in there. So it's also a thing that I'm learning.
So, what would you say are some of the like most important characteristics that you look for in a friend? Like what makes a good friend? And we already talked about balance in terms
Yeah.
of like being there for one another. What else?
I think just being able to like I feel like when we get together, we can have fun. I think being able to have that element of fun, like yes, we can touch on like deeper topics about things that are going on in our lives, but also being able to have fun and still maintain that. And we've gone out and we've done things. We've spent time at a bookstore and got our nails done. And so different scenarios as well. Like it's not just one specific environment. We can transition through everything and still be able to maintain that friendship. It's not awkward because sometimes I will run into somebody that I'm friends with, let's say at my work, and I run into them out in public and it's awkward. It's weird. Okay. I realize that I can only maintain that friendship in my work environment because when I am not in there, it's weird. And so then we're standing there and I don't know how, like, we can start the conversation, but I don't know how to end it. And it just drops off abruptly. And it's like, okay, well, you know. So I think just that ease of being able to have fun together and even do things that we have never done before together too, which it is very good way to bond more in the friendship. So I definitely think that's one. And I don't know, like again, it's like what we already said, the be able to give and take, the balance of it. Oh, you know what else? I also like how you hold me accountable too. That's what I like. I can't believe I'm saying that, but that's definitely one of them because we can talk, but you're honest with me. And that's a big one because I feel like so often, many times with various different people that you interact with in your day, some people just tell you what they think that you want to hear just to not upset you. I think that friends are not afraid to make you question things and to hold you accountable for things and are completely honest with you and it that's very important. Like I hold that probably so high in a world where it's really hard to trust people anymore.
Mhm.
So, yeah, being honest and then you making me think and pushing me and being like, you really should do this, or I'm going to, make you bring your laptop here. and do it in front of me. But
Well,
the thing is, I need that though sometimes. Sometimes I need that. We all do.
mhm.
And look,
Yeah,
I,
and sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and I followed what what you said because you were holding me accountable. And I felt so much better afterwards. And I was
Mm.
like, why did I not just do it sooner? Why did I not just do it sooner? But I
Well,
just need to give me that boost.
I want to add to that that it's not like I'm coming up with, it's not like
Right.
I'm coming up with solutions for you and then
Right.
trying to make you do those things. I'm genuinely listening to what you're saying you
Mhm.
need to do in your life. And I'm noticing that you'll say something like, I've been feeling like this for months.
Mhm.
I need to do this thing. I don't know why I
Mhm.
haven't done it yet. And
Yep.
then I'm like, okay, it sounds like that thing would really only take you a few minutes.
Yes.
Why haven't you done it? And when are you going to do it? Right?
No good
Like,
logical reason. That's why I'm saying, like, I needed you to hold me accountable. Like,
and we all have things like that.
yeah.
And I really, I appreciate you saying that and that you appreciate that. I
Yep.
also appreciate that from my friends. And I would even go a step further and say, I appreciate when friends tell me honestly areas where I can grow.
Hmm.
Like, you don't have to come at me like all judgy and you know what I mean?
Right.
Like you have a problem and I don't appreciate this.
Right.
But tell me, like, I'm noticing that you kind of come off like this sometimes, and you might want to look at that. I mean, I even appreciate that when like my kids, I think people closest to you are most likely to tell you those things. My kids have been great once they became adults, telling me very clearly some of the things that I do
Mhm.
or the way I come off to my husband that they notice that I need to work on.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Like I really appreciate that. And I've had some friends in my life, friends or acquaintances who like only say good things about me all the time. Like they're always telling me how awesome I am. And I'm like, after a point, I start feeling like I can't trust you. Like, why?
Because
Like,
you're
why are
like,
you trying to?
because you're like, now, come on. I know I'm not that awesome all of the time, right?
Right. Like, I know
I
I
get
have
it.
things I could work on. Like, I can't trust you to tell me those things, apparently.
Yeah.
And like, what are you trying to sneak past me? You're
Hmm.
like, you're so awesome. I appreciate this and this and this and
Right.
this, but never say something that you think I could work on.
Yeah.
I, just it seems sus to me. It seems suspicious. Like, and I welcome that constructive criticism
Right.
as long as it's constructive. Like,
Right.
don't just like be tearing me down. Like that
Right.
I won't appreciate.
There's a way to say things too, and I think some people aren't aware of how to approach things, and it comes out like
That's true
super
too.
super, yeah, super super harsh because I've ran into that already. um and I think that's another thing too about you, and it might have something to do with the fact that you are a life coach, but you just know how to address things and bring things up in a way that it doesn't come across as being judgy, and oftentimes you are putting you're putting the solution back on me, which is nice. It's You're not coming up with things for me like you said, but you are challenging me to think of my own solution, and I love that. I love that. I think that's very important too.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I think some of that also came from raising kids. Like at least the like trying not to come off all judgy. Not that I am always succeeding at it.
Right.
But like I know one of the things that was really important to me raising my kids was getting them to see in any kind of conflict situation, what could you do differently? You know, what is it that you have control over in
Yeah.
this situation? Because often our biggest frustrations and upset have to do with feeling a sense of powerlessness or that we're out of control.
Yes.
And anytime you're busy pointing the finger at somebody else that they need to change, you maintain that sense of powerlessness. And so to get your power back in a situation, you have to start thinking about what is it that I have control over? How could I do something differently? And I think that's one thing that I am really proud of myself that I helped my kids do
Mhm.
because um they it at the time they had a hard time seeing that I was on their side, especially when the conflict was with their sibling, because they were
Mhm.
like, "You're always taking their side, you know?"
Yes.
And then I'm like, "Please understand, I'm having this exact same conversation with them
Mhm.
as well, separately." But, you know, it the the point is you can't control them and they can't control you. So find your where what you can control
Mhm.
and take ownership of that because that's how you get your power back. And I really think I instilled that well. Now, why did I bring that up? Um, I guess my point is in terms of learning how to constructively
Mhm.
help somebody see an area where they could potentially grow
Mhm.
because it's particularly difficult with kids because, and I know as well as anybody because I still am so rebellious that I have a hard time even telling myself what to do because
Mhm.
there's like two parts in my brain. One of them is like, you should really do this. And the other part of my brain is like, don't tell me what to do.
Yes. Yes.
Once again, you can relate, which is great. Um, yeah, so like I get that a lot of us, and especially children, have a tendency to feel rebellious. So you can't just like give the solution or make them feel bad about it because it's not going to actually be productive. It
Yeah.
might make your life easier in the moment, but it's not going to actually help them to
Mhm.
grow and work on whatever it is you're trying to get them to work on and then become more able to handle the world as adults. Sorry, I just like kind of diverted into talking about children, but we all have a child still inside of us too. And I
That's
think
right.
as friends, we also like don't want our friends to like talk down to us
Right.
or you know or yeah or like be judgy or and I
Mm.
think so yeah, I think I learned some of that from coaching and some of that just from really from my personal principles around parenting
Mhm.
because parenting was a huge part of my life up until
Well, yeah.
recently. Yeah,
Yeah. I get that.
yeah, which is a whole different topic, but yeah.
That we could literally talk days about, honestly.
Yeah, honestly. Um, so before we wrap up, I wanted to there's a couple other questions that I still wanted to ask you. One is, as a full-time working single mom, how do you make time for friendships?
I think I struggled with that for a long time because I would go to work and I would have to take, kids to cross country practice and to friends' houses, and I would be so tired. But I feel like if you really want to make time for things, you can. So, yes, it may be a busy schedule, but finding time to fit things in, just like how, I work second shift now. So, being able to meet with you over coffee in the morning before I go to work is is great. And I that sets the tone for my entire day. So even just finding little bits of time here and there that we can get together just to keep that friendship strong is important. And then of course, when I have off, being able to go and do things. I think it's also important that I know when you need your time and you know when I need mine, and that we communicate that to each other too. I'm sympathetic.
Absolutely.
I'm a mother. I get it. Sometimes you have a lot going on, and you can't, just like we were supposed to meet for coffee. What was it, yesterday? Was it yesterday?
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, it
So
was yesterday.
yeah, and I was up all night long because I had to take the cat to the emergency vet, and I made sure I let you know that, because I knew I was going to be tired yesterday.
Right.
And things do come up, but I think as long as we still find time, to get together, to talk, to hang out, have fun, laugh. I mean, yeah, it's challenging. It is definitely challenging. It's
Yeah.
probably going to be, I mean, it's probably really hard for people too that work two jobs, especially because
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
a lot of people are now. Um,
Yeah.
but I think it's important to remember that we need this. You need to have these friendships. I know I've heard many people say it. I don't need this. I don't need that. I don't need anybody. No, we do. We do. We may think that we don't, but we do.
So why do you think it's super, like, why do you need friendship?
Definitely for my mental health, for sure. I don't want to feel like there were times where I felt super isolated and super alone, even though I had my kids around me all the time. I had my family around me, and I could go to the grocery store and run into people I know, or I could be talking to people on social media when I got home, but still feel alone
Hmm.
because I did not have the one-on-one friendship. You have to get out and meet your friend and do things together. You need that. Humans do.
Hmm.
And I think it's much, like I said, it's much harder nowadays because people are working more than one job. Um, and then, with the development of social media, I, you know, I came, I'm an older millennial. I came at the time when I remember the time before social media, and I remember the time before cell phones, and I've experienced the journey to where we are now. And so I've seen the change. And it is very isolating. It didn't seem like that at first. But when you take a step back and you think about it and you look at the bigger picture, we are. And so there's an increase in mental health right now. There's a lot of people suffering from depression and anxiety. And I fear that that's probably only going to get worse. So you need friends. You need people that you can lean on, people you can count on, people you can talk to.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned about the social media because I rem and seeing the
Mhm.
progression, seeing it happening, um, because I'm a Gen Xer, and I also I remember a time when there, before even like emails were like a common thing, what to speak of carrying around cell phones
Mhm.
and I remember one time there was a period of time where my husband was selling flowers on on Valentine's Day to make money, and he he came home and he was like, "Oh my goodness. This is the first time." Like he had gone downtown um Baltimore or something, and he was like, it was so hard to even get people's attention because everybody, he's like, I would see groups of friends walking down the street together. There might be 4 or 5 people in a group, and every single one of them is like this.
Yes.
And so even when we get together as friends these days, we often aren't giving each other our undivided attention.
Mm-hmm.
We keep getting distracted by social media, by our phones blinging and for one thing or another. And like our phones are demanding our attention
Mm-hmm.
when we should be connecting in person
Yeah.
with a human. Like even during those times when we have made time to get together
Mm-hmm.
with a friend, I think especially for younger people because they grew up with
Yeah.
the cell phone that or people that were even maybe millennials that are younger
Yeah.
millennials than yourself, who like maybe were like teenagers when the cell phone started to become a thing,
Mm-hmm.
or early 20s in college and whatnot, because yeah, like part of their socialization almost always had to do with like involved or included the phone. Um, so for me, it's a little bit easier, I think, to put it down and just spend time with you. That's why like Pishma was like, she's not answering me because I
Yes.
wasn't focused on my phone. I was focused on our conversation in person. But I think it's almost like phones have become an appendage, especially for younger people, that like they are never more than a couple inches away from them. And I don't like to say never because, or always, because that's very general and absolute,
Mhm.
but very infrequently more than a couple feet away from them. And so, or even inches away from them. And so even when they're together with friends in person, they've made that time, they're not actually giving each other attention. And I think that also is really contributing to a lack of health mentally.
Definitely. Definitely. And you lose that ability to know how to communicate and connect with somebody in person. That's why I think
Ooh,
that I was so socially awkward. And that's like, and I love that you touched on that about trying to detach from the phone when we are, you know, hanging out, because I also try not, like I try to keep it put away unless it's something that I really have to. But like what it was Thursday, was it Thursday
there's
when we got, yeah, when we got
yeah,
together.
Thursday.
Yeah, and the vet messaged me. I made sure to be clear that I was just checking it for that because I didn't want you to feel like you weren't being seen or that I didn't value your time. And
Mm,
that's why I put it away, because I do value your time. I do respect you. And I think that is a habit that people should really get into whenever they are making time with their friends, for sure. Just put it away. Like you're probably only going to be spending like an hour, 2 hours together. There is nothing that is that important that you would need to have your face in your phone for an extended period of time. If it's an
hmm
emergency, someone can call you. You can look at it and determine if it's a phone call you need to take. Like we need
mm,
to just back off a little bit with having our faces in our phone. And I mean, when I go to visit my mom, oftentimes we're just sitting around. She's on her iPad. And because she's on her iPad, I'm on my phone because I don't have anything to do. We're supposed
yeah,
to be having family time, but we're doing that. And then my dad comes out, and my dad's like in his late 70s, early 80s. He'll come out and he'll be like, "Is this all you guys do? You with your faces in your phones?" He says. He goes, "I can't believe it." And then he'll turn around and walk back out, so he's not afraid to say it. But there we are. And he's right. He's right.
yeah. That's so funny because my dad just turned 80, but he's the opposite, where he is so involved in social media. He's got his face in his phone more than my kids. Um, so it really can be any age that has a
Yes, it
problem.
really can. It really
It
can.
is addictive and it does take away from our social interactions. Another thing about the phone is that, or the social media, whatever, is that when we really stop and look at our time, when we talk about making excuses that I don't have time for this or that,
Mhm.
or even genuinely feeling like I don't have time for this or that, I think at this point we should all consider how much time are we spending on our phones, just like doom scrolling,
Mhm.
right? How much time are we watching TV?
Mhm.
And are those really our priorities, right? If that's your priority, that's fine. If that's doing it for you, good for
Right.
you, right? But if you're doing that and you're not making time for other things that you do really need in your life, like friendships, um, then and then you're like, well, I don't have time. Like, question that. I would invite you to question that.
Yes.
Is it really that you don't have time, or is it that you're prioritizing things that aren't actually meeting the
Mhm.
needs that your needs or aligned with your goals and your purpose? Um, You also touched on, and I know we're going on and on, do you still have time to talk a few more minutes?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Um, you also touched on boundaries.
Mhm.
And while I am going to do a whole podcast on boundaries, I think that's also an important thing to talk about around friendship. And you mentioned how, we had a plan to get together, but
Mhm.
you knew that you were going to be tired the next day because of something that unexpected that came up that you had to deal with that night with your cat getting sick. And so you let me know. This came up and I know I'm not going to have the energy tomorrow or I'm going to need to rest tomorrow. So I'm going to have to
Mhm.
take a rain check on our plans tomorrow. And that is so important in friendship because if you can't put boundaries up for yourself, you're going to get burnt out
Yeah.
and then stop wanting to or feeling like you have the energy to maintain a friendship.
Mhm.
If if I notice that my friend is never canceling on me, is always bending over backwards or feeling super guilty about, you know, and trying not to cancel on me when they really clearly need to,
Mhm.
right? Or trying not to, or don't tell me when, like, never tell me no, right? If somebody never tells me no, and I've even sometimes with family, I've noticed this, right? Somebody never tells me no, and I can tell sometimes that, like, someone's doing a favor for me, and I can tell they're exhausted and
Mhm.
it's really too much. They might even say that, but then still do it. And I'm like, just tell me no, because if you can tell me no, then I know that I can safely ask you,
Mhm.
right? Like I learned this from an old friend, like somebody that unfortunately passed away a long time ago, but like she was an adult when I was like um in my early 20s or late teens, and we met and she was just a great friend, and her name was Govinda, and she Govinda taught me that because like I would go and visit her a lot, but she would occasionally tell me that it wasn't a good time
Mhm.
or that she couldn't do something for me. And she would sometimes talk about boundaries too. And I came to realize that I always felt really safe to ask her, would it work for me to come visit this weekend? Or could you do this for me? Because I knew that if it was going to be an inconvenience for her, she would tell me no.
Mhm.
And that way I knew that I could ask safely without her starting to feel resentful. Because that's the thing. When anyone in a friendship doesn't ever say no, you're gonna start feeling resentful of how you're putting yourself out for your friend. And that's not good for the friendship. Therefore, it's not good for either person.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also important too, on the other side of things, um, I feel safe telling you, expressing my boundaries, like when I couldn't, when I knew I was going to need to rest, because I knew that you would respect that. And I think that's also important, that you need to set boundaries in your friendships, but you also have to be aware of the other person's boundaries as well, and you have to respect them. It's not always one-sided. So it's very important that, again, the balance, that you're aware of it.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, balance, right? I know balance is like a tricky word for me for some reason. But in friendship, for some reason, it's a little easier for me to talk about. But
It
like in my
is.
personal life,
Yeah, but
like on a day-to-day balance.
if you would have if you would have talked to me about this before we became friends, I would have been just like, I have no idea what to tell you. Seriously. This
Oh,
literally is just
interesting.
something that it's much easier for me right now with our friendship. And it's a combination, like I said, of my age and then me wanting it to work, me wanting to put the effort in. So it becomes easier. And,
Got you.
it's the way that we talk about things too. Um, I find you highly intelligent. And so it's easy for me to talk to you because I know that you get what I'm saying. You hear
Hmm.
me. So it makes a difference. It definitely does.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I feel absolutely the same way that, I feel like we're well matched
Hmm.
in that sense.
Yes.
And in self-reflection,
Yeah.
because I think the more self-aware you are, the better able you are to accept other people's boundaries, put boundaries for yourself, um, you know, understand when you do get constructive criticism, like honestly look at it for yourself, being self-aware and also developing good self-esteem is, I think, really helpful in terms of having any relationship,
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
definitely in friendship. Yeah. Did you have any questions for me? I know you had looked over my possible questions that I sent over to you. Did you have anything that you wanted to ask me specifically?
Um, hang on a minute because I'm trying to remember. There was one. Hang on, let me pull it up here because there was one that I absolutely loved, and I've just got to find it now so I can remember exactly how it's worded. Oh, okay. You had said, what's one random thing that we have in common that surprises us, okay? And I was so excited for that question. You have no idea. Okay, so I want you to go first. I want you to tell me because I'm curious if it's going to be close or related to like what I was going to say to that question.
Okay. So it's funny because even though I actually, to be completely transparent, came up with these questions with the help of ChatGPT. So it wasn't like I thought thoroughly through every
Yep.
question and was like, I have an
Well,
answer
you
for
should
this.
have because I'm
I
asking
should.
you.
So let me think about this for a minute. A random thing that we have in common that I was surprised about. I feel like there's been so many little things that I'm
There
like,
has been though, like where we've been like, what? Really?
yeah, oh my gosh. Yeah, I feel like one time when maybe it was the day that we went up to State College and did like the whole day out,
Hmm.
that there was something that came up I was like, what? We even have that in common?
I
I
remember
know.
you
I can't
saying that.
remember what
What
it
was
was.
it?
Um,
Oh, it was something too, and I can't remember. I do remember us
darn.
saying that though.
Yeah.
What was that?
Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I am drawing a complete blank.
Me too. I don't know. I'm going to tell you mine though because I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, please tell me
You want to know what
yours.
surprises what we had in common that surprised me so much was the fact that we are both always running late.
Oh,
And I do not feel judged about it. But like I love it because you can just send me a message on days when, we have plans to meet up and you're like, "Yeah, I'm running like 15 minutes behind." And I'm like, "Oh, good, because me too." Or,
like every time.
right. Or like the day on Thursday where, oh, I don't know, like I was like 45 minutes late because I was still sleeping.
Yeah, well, yeah, so we originally said we were going to meet up at 11. I
Yeah.
was running what I said was 15 minutes late. It turned out to be like more like 20, 25 minutes late.
Yeah.
And I was texting you the whole time, like letting you know what
Hmm.
stage I was at. And then when I got there, I was like, okay, I'm here. Um, and then it was like 10, 15 minutes went by, and I was sitting there and I was like, she still hasn't even texted me back. I wonder if she's even awake. I was like,
Yeah, that's
I hope like there's no like emergency she's dealing with or anything that like I hope everything's okay. So then I was like, are you okay? Still no text back, right? So I was like, I bet she's not awake. And then I was like, she's probably really tired. So let me just let her sleep a little bit. And because I was doing stuff on my computer anyway. So I was like, I'll just sit here, eat my breakfast, drink my coffee, and do some work on my computer. And then I was like, how long should I wait? And I was like, okay, well, I'll wait till like 11:45. And so 11:45 came and you still hadn't texted back. I was like, okay, I'm calling. And
Yes,
then you
thank
were like, oh my
you.
God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
I was
because
like, it's totally fine.
that phone call literally woke me up. And I think, I think that's just, because we are so lenient with each other when it comes to that. I'm definitely lenient because of me now working, second shift. I work from like 2 to 11, and then I don't always go to bed right away when I get home because I'm still kind of like pumped up from the day.
Yeah.
So my schedule is a little wonky anyway. So yeah, I appreciate that on a lot of a lot of different levels. But yeah, whenever that first day, whenever we were gonna meet up and you're like, I'm gonna be like 10, 15 minutes late, and I was like, no, that's cool, that's fine. And then when you got there and we started talking about it, and I was like, just to let you know, I'm always late too.
Yeah. So I think the very first time we met up, I was like early because I
Yep.
didn't know, right? If you were like a really on time person, I think you were
Yeah.
one of the first people to show up to the Halloween party, but I think that was because of Jack. Now that I
Yeah, it
know
was.
you and Haley and Jack. And so I was like, she might be like a really prompt person and I
Mhm.
know like my husband's a very prompt person and it drives him nuts that I'm always late for things to the point where even if we're going to an event that's like literally less than 5 minutes away, we will drive separate cars because we want to arrive and leave at different
Yeah.
times. And I don't want him rushing me to
Yeah.
leave to arrive, like to get my butt out the door. And I
Right.
also don't want him like or he doesn't want to keep me from leaving when I'm ready to leave because he often enjoys the like larger social gatherings more than I do. And
Right.
so he's like still hanging out and I'm often ready to go home.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the opposite way around. Sometimes I'm engaged in a conversation that I end up being like the last one to leave somewhere. But then also he's not waiting for me. So
Mhm.
it just works. But because I didn't know, because you showed up on time for the Halloween party, I was like, oh, she might be like a very like on time person. So I made such an effort to get there like the way I would for like a job interview.
Well,
It's like
okay. So,
I
I
am
mean,
gonna,
I get
this
that.
matters a lot to me, so I'm gonna get there early. And then when you were late the first time, I was like, okay, so it's cool. It's cool if I'm running a little late
Yep.
like I
No,
normally am.
you will never get any judgment from me. Like,
It's cool for
I
me to
love it.
just be me.
I
Yeah.
love it. But
And
yeah, I thought that
honestly,
was so great.
yeah, and honestly, I've there's just been it's been almost everything. Like so many things that we talk about. It's like same, same, And so I guess without remembering a specific thing, I think there's just been it's
Mhm.
felt like it's been almost everything that one of us
Right.
brings up and the other person is like, I can totally relate.
Hmm. Yeah, I
And
love that.
that's
And
been great.
with that being said, as far as, friendships go, it's great to have things in common with each other, but there should be some differences. And there are differences. There are actually some pretty big differences between me and you, but we have enough of the common stuff too. And it's a perfect balance. Again, like you have to have a little bit of difference because that's how we learn, that's how we grow. And I
Yeah.
love that, like you're you're vegan and I eat hamburgers. So like there's that. And that's a big one, especially when
It's
we're
a big one.
because where we're trying to figure out what we're going to eat, you know?
Yeah, when
So
we go out
I'm
doing things
yeah,
together.
and
Yeah.
I'm mindful of that too as well. Like, okay, we'll pick a place where we both have options, you know?
Hmm.
But it's good to have those differences. I learn
It
a lot
is.
from those. I learned a lot from you, even talking to you about that. So I think that's great. I think that's awesome. And I think
Yeah.
it's important.
Yeah, and I think it's unreasonable to expect that anybody's going to be like exactly like you.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's important to be able to appreciate and respect the differences that are there.
Hmm. Well, and, it's even talking about that. So, my friend from college that I said I'm still friends with, actually, we are two separate political parties.
Oh,
And that
interesting.
is very, very touchy for a lot of people. Um, so because we know that though, we do not talk about those things because we
Mm,
know that is a very touchy. We're also two separate religions as well, and to the extremes on those religions. So we don't talk about that either. I don't need to try to change her views to fit mine. I love her as a person, and it's okay to be different. It's okay to be different.
mm. Yeah. Yeah. On the other hand, if it wasn't too sensitive or touchy a subject, you could potentially learn and grow from the other person's
Yes.
perspective. But it's important to know the difference. Is this
Yes.
something where we can appreciate a different perspective and talk about this thing? Or is this something that is just like too close to home and too touchy a subject for us? And we just avoid that and focus on our similarities.
Right. Yeah, because like those two topics obviously are very people are
Hmm.
set in their values and they are set in their ways with those two topics. That's not something that you usually get a chance to talk about. But with us, like you being vegan and, me eating meat, I learn a lot from that only because, I can ask you about your experiences with, what your meals look like and things like that, especially if I'm trying to feel better, because
Mm,
for as far as, certain foods cause inflammation. So with your experiences and how you feel when you eat certain things, then I know maybe I should implement a little bit more, of something in my diet. And that's helped me a lot. I don't always eat the best,
interesting.
yeah, I don't always eat the best. So adding some more vegetables or different kinds of, protein that's not meat into my diet has helped my digestive system some.
Mm, very interesting.
Yeah. So you learn,
Yeah. And
especially
that
the dairy
not
thing.
the dairy thing.
Uh,
Yeah. Oh my
We
goodness.
talked about the dairy thing. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, because I wouldn't even say that I'm vegan yet because I'm like working
Yeah.
my way there. Like I still have some products in the house. Like I just decided the other day that with podcasting, I need to stop eating milk products because I get sinus issues and like just basically my body creates a lot more mucus like literally immediately after
Yeah.
I'll have a sneezing fit after
Hmm.
I eat a few spoonfuls of yogurt, for instance.
Yeah.
Um, and I can't be doing that. I can't be like stopping and coughing and clearing my throat and blowing my nose constantly when I'm recording a podcast, right? Like that is not gonna
Right.
be
Right.
a great look, right? So I'm like, okay, I think this is gonna be the motivation because I enjoy doing this so much. I think I could give up the milk products
Mhm.
for this reason. Over the years, like just being annoyed by how many tissues I go through and how much I have to blow my nose and clear my throat, like that wasn't enough of a motivation for me. Like, I could
Right.
feel
But
like
this
crap
is.
and I still wanted to eat the cheese, you know? And so I get how hard it is to shift one's diet, even if it is for better health. And for me, the vegetarianism has always been such a like a principle thing,
Mhm.
more so than like a health thing, and actually completely not a health thing. Like I could be unhealthy and you can totally be unhealthy and still be a vegetarian. Like you could still eat pizza and potato chips and ice cream all day, right? Like
Right.
like it's not that you're automatically healthier. Um, but in the past when I was younger, and this is again a like maturity thing, I think, um, I remember trying to make friends with somebody that I felt we had a lot of maybe other things in common, but we went out to eat and she was eating meat and I was so judgmental about it.
Hmm.
I was sitting there like, how can you do that? And like being really, and And over the years, I have had like I still remember that because after the fact, I was like, oh my God, that was so cringy. Like, I'm sure she felt really put off by that. And that's why we didn't become friends, right? Like, we were hitting it off, and then I went there. And, and so, like, and she's still one of my friends on Facebook. So, I like, she'll pop up in my feed from time to time, and I will never forget that because I regretted it so much.
Yeah.
How I was so like intolerant of somebody's different choice in
Mhm.
life just because for me it was a very personal thing. But as I've matured, I've again like realized that even sometimes people might understand my reasons for being a vegetarian, but still, and maybe they've even tried and still had a hard time with it the same way I've had a hard time with milk products, right?
Mhm.
Maybe they haven't tried because they haven't thought of it the same way that I think of it. And that's okay. That doesn't make them bad person in
Right.
all, you know what I mean? Like it might, and I can understand. This is another thing that I've realized kind of more recently. You can understand something about someone and not condone it. Just because
Yeah.
you understand and you're tolerant doesn't mean that
Mhm.
you condone it. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Like we need to learn to be more tolerant and accepting of each other, even if it's something like even in those areas where like, yeah, that like that doesn't align with my
Mhm.
principles or my values. But that's okay because that's not my life,
Right.
right? Like you don't have to align with my values for us
Exactly.
to be
Because
friends.
think of how boring everything would be if we all expected those people that we have relationships with to be exactly like us.
Right. And how would we ever grow or learn if
Hmm.
everybody was the same? Like to me,
Exactly.
that's like a scary world that everybody's the same. So, and yeah, boring as heck.
Hmm.
So it's, and I think also the more I lean into another one of my values, which is that everybody has the right to personal autonomy
Hmm.
and to make decisions for their own lives and live their life the way they, because we're all growing and learning. We all have different stuff that we're coming with our childhood, with, so many things we're working through, so many challenges we're
Yep.
faced with, and we each have to find our own way in the world.
Hmm.
And to try to impose your values on someone else is almost like trying to take that away from them, trying to take away their right to find what works for them in life.
Hmm.
And I no longer want to do that. Like, and it's crazy to me to think back and realize that there was a time when I didn't realize that,
Hmm.
but I have to be honest and truthful that there was.
Yeah.
And I'm just glad that I've grown past that now.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, that's great. Like, I also did that, something very similar before, where I found myself not as tolerant with people's differences. It is a growing process, definitely. But I think when you open your mind up to people's differences and you realize you're putting yourself in their shoes, you wouldn't want someone to come in and try to change things about you and who you are. You would want them to respect it. And I think once you're able to put yourself in someone else's place, you really start to change the way that you are. And so I've experienced that same journey too, to get me to where I am now, and so thankful for it. I really am.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think even if you have some desire to inspire somebody to look at something from your perspective, you're not going to inspire them by being judgy and pushy
Right.
because nobody responds well to that.
No.
Or shall I say, the only people that I can imagine would respond well to that would be people that maybe have like really low sense of self-worth
Yeah.
and are doing that to themselves already, and so it feels like comfortable or something, but that's not healthy. That's not good.
Yeah, it's not.
That's not helpful for them.
No, and you're not doing yourself any favors either by being like that. And and let's be real, like this, it's all about living your best life. And if you want to live your best life, it is not healthy to be close-minded and not be open to people's differences.
Yeah.
It's not healthy. So,
No, because then you're distracted from your own growth,
mhm,
trying to control something you have no control over,
right.
which is only going to lead you to feeling powerless,
Hmm.
which is not a great place to be. So like you said, like it doesn't do anybody any favors to not accept and appreciate differences.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, there is okay, so there was two other questions that were here that I really thought were fun. Um, one was about a dream vacation, or dream trip. And then the other one was a nickname based on personalities.
Oh,
Not
I
that
got
I, not that I've thought about that one, so I'm not sure I would have an answer for it.
Oh, I
Um,
got you. Because
oh,
I
you
thought
got me.
about mine. I did my homework.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
I did my
I'm
homework.
so sorry.
So,
This is my podcast and I'm the one not doing the homework. That's terrible.
so the nickname I would give you would be Sparky. Now, let me elaborate. Okay. Because I feel like you ignite creativity in me. You help me see my creative side, which I didn't really think I had any talents until you really pointed it out. And also, like, I feel like you just energize whatever room you're in. And I felt like that whenever I went to the Halloween party, because you just come across as such a vibrant person. And then once I got to know you, you are indeed that vibrant person. And I love that about you. So yes, I would call you Sparky.
So much. I love it. As you were talking, I was like, I just kind of sat with it for a second. What would be my name for you? And it is Blossom
Oh, I
because,
love that.
yeah, because you love plants and because
Yeah.
I feel like my personality has like a fertile soil to blossom and be my whole self when I'm in your presence.
Oh, I love that so much. That's so cute.
So yeah. And I see you blossoming too. Like I
Oh,
got
definitely.
so excited the other day when you started talking about some of your, well, when you started talking about your photographs because I genuinely think they are so freaking good.
Thank you so
So,
much. It means a lot because it's we had this conversation the other day at work. They were talking about talents because I guess my place of work used to do like talent shows, right? And I'm like, and they're like, "Well, what's your talent?" And I'm like, "I don't think I have one. Like I can draw, but it's not like crazy good. You're not going to look at it and be like, oh, that you should have an art exhibit. Okay. But so when you pointed out my photographs and then I'm kind of looking at them, I'm like, okay, like I guess they're not that bad. Like I guess they are pretty good. So it was kind of nice to have that outside perspective on it because for me, I did it just because I loved to do it, not because I was like, oh, I need to make this look good. So for you to come to me and say, no, those are good, that means a lot to me.
yeah. Yeah, so I can see how we can help each other to blossom and I
Yes.
think that that's yeah, yeah, your name is Blossom.
Yay. I'm gonna have to
I
be
love
like,
this.
we'll have to go somewhere where we have to call and make a reservation. And we're gonna be like, yes, it's gonna be for Sparky and Blossom. And then just show up. They're gonna be
That's
like,
so
what
great.
the heck?
I love this. Another fun thing for us to play
Yes.
with. So thank you so much for joining me today, Lindsay, and talking about friendship. Feel like we could talk all day and all night
Oh,
about it,
absolutely.
but I don't want to bore our listeners. So and I know we probably both have other things we need to get done today. Um, even if I might prefer to just sit and talk with you.
I know.
So so thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure, and I know we could probably like come up with a lot more content too on this topic, but I think we hit a lot of the important
Yes.
points, and I really appreciate you coming on and talking to me about this, and I think it was very special for me because of the newness of our friendship and how
Mhm.
well we've managed to hit it off. I think that's a very um specific realm or not realm, but like a specific type of experience.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah. I am looking forward to hopefully also interviewing. I spoke with somebody yesterday
Mhm.
and I'm going to be interviewing two friends who have been friends for like 45 years. So that's going to
Oh
be like
my
a
gosh.
different perspective, which is
Yes,
going to
that'll
be
be
fun.
awesome.
Yeah, so I'm hoping to choose a few different perspectives, and I'm also going to do one on my friendship with my friend who I only see for short periods of
Mhm.
time once a year now that I've started going to see her once a year, and we had not seen each other for 20 years in between. At one point, like until 2 years ago, we hadn't seen each other for 20 years, and
Mhm.
yet we still felt like we were very close. And so that's a very different experience. And I think it's really cool to recognize and appreciate all different types of friendships. And that's
Yes.
why I'm excited that I have the opportunity to do an episode on a few different types of friendships.
Yes,
And
because it all looks different. And it will look different for, a lot of your listeners too. That that not all friendships will look the exact same. It's not a cookie cutter.
right,
It'll be a little bit
exactly.
different. And that's okay for it to be different.
Right. And I would also like to tell our audience that I offer one-on-one coaching if you're struggling, feeling alone, and would like to have some support in maybe becoming a little more self-reflective about it, understanding maybe what's keeping you from stepping outside your comfort zone and reaching out and making friends. Um, I'm here for you. I would be happy to walk through that process with you and give you that support. Also, we're going to be doing a workshop on the topic that will be a donation-based workshop. So if money's tight and that's an issue for you, or if you just want to get a taste of what it's like to work with me before signing up for one-on-one coaching, then, please feel free to come to our donation-based workshop and explore the issues of friendships and how that comes up for you in that setting as well. It'll be like a 90-minute workshop, and I will be putting out some advertisement about that coming soon. So once again, thank you so much, Lindsay. It's been fantastic, and I look forward to meeting you for coffee or some other activity soon.
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
All right, awesome. Take care of yourself and your kitty, and we'll talk soon.
All right, bye.
Bye.